All right, y'all. I feel it, though. I thought about how he and my father were raised in the same environment, same poverty, same school, same hardship, but my father had gone on to make a great difference with his life, to set a new standard, to bring his family into abundance. The difference was one man held his cup. My father got rid of his cup. One man lowered his expectations to match his environment. He lived with excuses, settled for the status quo. He was a good man, but he's just hoping for some coins. He stayed stuck where he was. It's interesting that God didn't love my father any more than he loved that man. It wasn't God holding him back. It was his cup. It was his old wineskin. He couldn't see the new things that God had in store. When your vision is limited, your life will be limited. It's amazing what happens when you get rid of your cup, when you enlarge your vision, when you believe big, when you pray bold prayers, when you dream great dreams. God said in Psalms, "Open your mouth wide and I will fill it." Are you asking for coins so you can survive when God is wanting to give you new legs so you can run? Why don't you get rid of that cup? You're not limited by how you were raised, by what didn't work out. If that was going to stop your purpose, God wouldn't have allowed it. It's a test. Are you going to settle for a cup, live with a limited mindset, or are you going to do like my father, get rid of that cup and believe for the greatness God put in you? It's not too late. You can still become all you were created to be. When you're in agreement with God, He'll make things happen that you couldn't make happen. He'll open doors you couldn't open. He'll cause opportunity, good breaks, the right people to come looking for you. 2 Kings chapter 2, in 2 Kings, there's a story of this widow. Her husband has died and now she's run out of funds to pay her bills. And the creditors are coming to take her sons as payment. All she had of any value was a small jar of oil. The prophet Elisha came by and told her to do something interesting, to go to her neighbors and borrow as many empty containers as she could find. He said specifically, borrow not a few. Get as many as you can. She went out and gathered maybe a dozen containers and came back. Elisha told her to pour the little oil that she had into one of the empty containers. Didn't make sense, but she did it. She filled up the first container, then another and another and another. The oil never ran out until she finished filling up all the containers. She went out and sold the oil, had plenty to pay her debts, plenty left over to live off of. The key phrase in this story is borrow not a few. She determined how much oil she was going to have. The oil only ran out when she didn't have any more containers. That's why God told her, borrow not a few. If she had borrowed twice as many containers, she would have had twice as much oil. What if she had said, Elisha, I got this cup. Let's just use it. She'd only had a cup full of oil. God was showing us this principle. If you'll open your mouth wide, He will fill it. He has an unlimited supply. He never runs out. But too often, because of disappointments, delays, things that haven't worked out, we've watered down our dreams. We've lowered our expectations. We're not stretching, believing for great things, believing to get well. God has the oil, but we don't have the containers. He's saying to you what He said to this woman, borrow not a few. Don't shortchange yourself. Don't live with a cup mentality. I'll never get out of debt. God, just help me to pay my bills. Our family will never be happy. God, just help us not to kill each other. No, pray bold prayers. God is going to fill the containers that you bring to Him. It's not a supply problem. It's a capacity problem. Are you putting limits on what God wants to do in your life? Are you focused on what you think can happen only in your ability? You're looking at the natural, but God is supernatural. He controls the universe. He parts Red Seas. He brought water out of a rock. He fed thousands with 2 fish. Don't base your containers on what you can do. Base it on what God can do. I know a lady that's a single parent mother. She's gone through some health issues and had some major struggles. Her home was damaged in a storm. She had to start all over. But despite all that, she would be at Lakewood every Sunday with her children. They didn't have much, but they knew God was on their side, that He could make a way. From the time her little son Troy was a boy, he had a dream to go to college. Didn't look like this mother would be able to afford it. The odds were against him. He didn't have a defeated mentality. He could have thought, we're poor. I'm at a disadvantage. I'm limited. But he got rid of the cup. He didn't make excuses to settle. He didn't let people talk him out of it. All growing up, he would tell his friends he was going to get a scholarship. His goal is to become the Secretary of State. Other students would look at him like he's not all there. There was no way. Didn't bother him. He just kept believing it, declaring it, thinking like it was going to happen. When he graduated, his mother brought me a newspaper article about Troy. It talked about how he was awarded not one scholarship, not two, not five, not eight. He received 9 scholarships worth $1.3 million to attend Georgetown University. Not just for his bachelor's and all of his books and supplies, but for his master's and for his doctorate. I was driving down the freeway and I saw a billboard. It had Troy's picture on it with his graduation cap. The caption read, "Meet our next Secretary of State." Both of her sons received full scholarships. When you get rid of that cup, God will open the windows of heaven. You have not seen, heard, or imagined what He has in store. Don't let a limited mindset keep you from the abundant life that belongs to you. This is what happened with the Israelites. God brought them out of slavery, delivered them from the Pharaoh. He took them toward the promised land, but they complained. They were negative. They didn't think they could make it in. They ended up wandering around the same mountain for 40 years. They became conditioned in their thinking to not expect anything good. They were in a rut. Man, we're stuck out here. We'll always struggle, always be in lack, have this hardship. Before they went into the promised land, God had to change their mindset. He told them in Deuteronomy, "You have passed around this mountain long enough." He announced to them that they were about to break out of the rut, that He was about to do something new, that they were not just going to dream about the promised land, but they were going to live in the promised land. It's significant that God didn't just take them in, didn't just surprise them. He had to get them to change their mind first, to get their hopes up, to break out of that cup mentality, to get a vision for abundance, for victory, for favor.